The alarm screamed through every corridor of the Stellar Harmony Research Station. Red lights flashed against the metal walls as crew members ran in different directions. Lyra pressed herself against the wall of Laboratory 7, her scaled hands shaking as she tried to understand what was happening. "All personnel, this is Commander Vex. We are under attack. Raiders have breached the outer hull. Evacuate to the safe zones immediately." Lyra's heart beat fast in her chest. Her people, the Valasians, prided themselves on logic and calm thinking. But right now, she felt neither logical nor calm. The laboratory door had sealed shut when the attack began, and the control panel was sparking with electrical damage. She was trapped. She moved to the emergency communication panel and pressed the button. Nothing. The systems were dead. Through the small window in the door, she could see smoke filling the corridor outside. The air in the laboratory was getting thin. The life support system was failing. Lyra sat down on the floor, forcing herself to breathe slowly. Her species did not panic. They calculated. They planned. She looked around the lab for anything that might help her escape. The walls were solid metal. The door was locked from the outside. The ventilation shaft was too small for her body. She closed her eyes and accepted her fate. This was the end. At least it would be quick when the oxygen ran out. Then she heard something. Footsteps, running, getting closer. "Hey! Is someone in there?" a voice called from outside. It spoke in standard galactic common, but with an accent she recognized. Human, Earth dialect. Lyra jumped to her feet and pressed her face to the window. Through the smoke, she could see a figure, a human male in an engineer's uniform, his face covered with a breathing mask. He was carrying tools and moving equipment out of his way. "Yes, I am here! The door is sealed!" Lyra shouted. Okay, stay back from the door," the human yelled. "I'm going to get you out." "The station commander ordered evacuation. You should leave. The mathematics suggest this section will collapse within 5 minutes, Lyra said, her voice steady despite her fear. The human laughed. It was a strange sound in the middle of danger. "Yeah, well, humans are bad at math. Stay away from the door." Lyra watched as the human pulled out some kind of portable cutting tool. Sparks flew as he worked on the door's locking mechanism. The smoke was getting thicker. The human coughed but did not stop working. "Who are you?" Lyra asked through the window. "Name's Jinho. Engineer. 4th class. Not important right now." His hands moved quickly over the controls, bypassing the lock's safety systems. "You are risking your life for one Valasian researcher. This is not logical," Lyra said. "Probably not," Jinho agreed. Sweat dripped down his face. "But we don't leave people behind. It's kind of a human thing." The door suddenly hissed and slid open halfway. Jinho grabbed the edge and pulled, his muscles straining. The door opened just enough for a body to fit through. "Come on, we need to move," he said, reaching his hand toward her. Lyra grabbed his hand. His skin was warm and soft compared to her cool scales. He pulled her through the opening. The moment she was through, the ceiling above the laboratory groaned. Metal twisted with a terrible sound. "Run!" Jinho shouted. They ran together down the corridor. Behind them, Lyra heard the laboratory collapse. Dust and debris filled the air. Jinho pulled her around a corner just as a piece of ceiling crashed down where they had been standing seconds before. But they were not safe yet. The corridor ahead was blocked by fallen support beams. Jinho looked around quickly, then pointed to a side passage. "This way leads to the emergency pods, but we have to climb over that wreckage." They climbed over twisted metal and broken equipment. Lyra was fast and agile, but Jinho had to work harder. Humans were not built for climbing like her species. Halfway across, another explosion rocked the station. Jinho lost his footing. Lyra's hand shot out and grabbed his arm. She pulled him up, surprised by her own strength in the moment. "Thanks," Jinho said, breathing hard. "You saved me first. This is logical exchange," Lyra replied. They continued moving. The emergency pod bay was just ahead. Lyra could see other crew members already inside, preparing to seal the doors. They were going to make it. Then she heard the terrible sound of metal breaking above them. Lyra looked up and saw a massive piece of the ceiling coming down. It was going to hit them both. Jinho saw it too. In one quick movement, he grabbed Lyra and threw her forward toward the pod bay. She rolled across the floor to safety, but Jinho was not fast enough to save himself. The debris came down on top of him. "No!" Lyra screamed. She had never screamed before in her life. Other humans rushed forward. They pulled the debris off Jinho together, working with strength that surprised Lyra. Humans were supposed to be weak compared to most species, but together they lifted metal that should have been impossible for them to move. They pulled Jinho free. He was bleeding from his head and arm, but he was alive. He looked at Lyra and smiled. "You okay?" he asked. Lyra could not speak. This human had nearly died to save her. He was hurt because he pushed her to safety instead of saving himself. This was the opposite of logical. This was the opposite of what her people would do. This was incredible. The medical team took Jinho away. The raiders were finally driven off by the station's security forces. The emergency passed, but Lyra could not stop thinking about what happened. Later, when she was released from medical examination, she went to visit Jinho in the recovery ward. Through the window, she watched as other humans came to see him. The station commander gave him a medal. His fellow engineers clapped him on the back and called him a hero. But what fascinated Lyra most were the human women. They hugged Jinho. They kissed his cheeks. They held his hands and cried happy tears. They touched him with such easy affection, such warmth. One woman named Nari pressed her forehead against his and whispered something that made him blush. Lyra had never seen gratitude expressed this way. In Valesian culture, she would write a formal letter of thanks. She would give him a practical gift. She would bow with respect. But she would never touch him like that. Touch was only for mating bonds among her people. She watched as two human women walked past her in the hallway. "He's such a hero," one said to the other. "Did you see what he did?" "I know. If someone saved my life like that, I'd definitely show him some proper appreciation," the other replied with a giggle. "Human style, you know." They laughed together and walked away. Lyra stood very still, processing what she heard. Human style. There was a specific way humans thanked their heroes. A way that involved touching and closeness and expressions of feeling that went beyond formal words. Lyra looked back through the window at Jinho. He was laughing with his friends now, despite his bandages. He looked happy. He looked like saving her life was the most natural thing in the world. Something strange happened in Lyra's chest, a warm feeling she had never experienced before. She did not have words for it in Valesian, but she knew somehow that simple thanks would not be enough for what this human had done. She needed to understand this human way of gratitude. She needed to learn how to properly thank a hero. She needed to thank Jinho the way his people would understand. Lyra spent the next 3 days doing something very un-Valesian. She spied on humans, not in a dangerous way. She simply observed them in the station's common areas. She watched how they interacted with each other. She took mental notes like a scientist studying a new species, which in a way she was. Humans touched each other constantly. It amazed her. They hugged when they met. They patted shoulders when they agreed with something. They held hands when they walked together. Two humans named Minho and Hana stood so close while talking that their shoulders touched, and neither seemed to mind at all. In Valesian culture, standing that close to someone meant you were going to mate with them. But these humans were just friends. They touched because they liked each other, because it felt good, because it was normal. Lyra found it fascinating and confusing at the same time. She went to the station's database and requested access to Earth's cultural files. The computer asked her why she needed this information. "Personal research," she typed. The files opened. There were thousands of documents about human behavior, customs, traditions. Lyra started with the basics. How humans greeted each other, how they showed friendship, how they expressed gratitude. The more she read, the more confused she became. Humans seemed to have a different gesture for every situation. A handshake was formal, a hug was friendly, a kiss on the cheek was affectionate, a kiss on the lips was romantic. But sometimes a kiss on the cheek was also romantic, depending on context. How did humans keep track of all this? Lyra decided she needed more data. She accessed the entertainment files. Humans loved stories, and stories showed how people really behaved, didn't they? She started watching something called a romantic comedy. It was about a human woman who fell in love with a man who saved her cat from a tree. The man was clumsy and awkward, but brave. At the end of the movie, the woman kissed him to say thank you. Lyra watched 5 more movies. In each one, when someone was saved or helped, the gratitude involved physical closeness. Hugs, kisses. Sometimes more, though those scenes made Lyra's scales flush with what she recognized as embarrassment. Was this what she was supposed to do? Kiss Jinho to say thank you properly? The thought made her nervous. She had never kissed anyone. Valasians did not kiss. They had other ways of showing mating interest, but kissing was not one of them. She needed expert help. Lyra found Sora in the xenobiology laboratory. Sora was a human woman who studied alien life forms. She was smart and kind, and she had always been friendly to Lyra. "Sora, may I ask you a question?" Lyra said, trying to sound casual. Sora looked up from her microscope and smiled. "Of course. What's on your mind?" Lyra sat down carefully. "I wish to understand human gratitude customs, specifically physical expressions of thanks." Sora's eyebrows went up. "Oh? Is this about Jinho saving you?" Lyra's scales changed color slightly, something that happened when she felt strong emotion. "Perhaps. I observed that humans thank their heroes differently than my people do. I want to understand the proper way." Sora set down her work and gave Lyra her full attention. "Well, it depends on your relationship with the person and how comfortable you are. For someone who saved your life, a hug would definitely be appropriate, maybe a kiss on the cheek if you're close friends." "And if I am not close friends with this person yet?" Lyra asked. "Then start with a hug. Humans use physical touch to build closeness. It's how we show we care about someone." Sora smiled warmly. "The important thing is that it feels genuine. We can tell when someone is just going through the motions." "Genuine," Lyra repeated. "Meaning sincere, from true feeling." "Exactly. Don't just copy what you see in movies. Do what feels right to you." But that was the problem, Lyra thought as she left the laboratory. She did not know what felt right. Her people did not have these instincts. She would have to learn them. Over the next week, Lyra continued her research. She watched more human entertainment files. She observed more interactions. She even practiced hugging in her private quarters, wrapping her arms around a pillow to understand the mechanics. She also started paying attention to Jinho specifically. He had recovered from his injuries and was back to work. She saw him in the corridor sometimes, always with that easy smile. He was kind to everyone. When a young crew member dropped her data pad, Jinho picked it up for her. When the food dispenser broke down, Jinho fixed it so everyone could eat. When Minho looked stressed about a difficult repair job, Jinho stayed late to help him. Jinho was not trying to be a hero. He was just being himself, and himself was good. Lyra realized she was thinking about him more than she should. During her work, she would wonder what he was doing. During meals, she would look for him in the dining area. At night, she would replay the moment he saved her, over and over. This was not logical. This was not Valasian. This was very, very human. She decided it was time. She had done enough research. She understood the theory. Now she needed to practice. Lyra sent Jinho a message on the station's communication system. Would you meet me at the observation deck tonight? I wish to show you something about my nebula research. It was not completely a lie. She did want to show him her research, but mostly she wanted to thank him properly. Jinho's reply came quickly. Sure, I'd love to see what you're working on. See you at 1900 hours. Lyra spent the rest of the day preparing. She reviewed her research notes. She practiced the words she would say. She watched one more movie scene where a woman thanked a man for saving her. The woman in the movie had made it look so easy. She just walked up to the man, smiled, touched his arm, and kissed his cheek. Simple, natural, beautiful. Lyra could do that. She had the data. She understood the steps. She just needed to execute the plan. At 1900 hours, she went to the observation deck. The room had a huge window that looked out into space. The nebula they were studying filled the view with colors that humans called purple and blue and pink. It was beautiful, though Lyra barely noticed it tonight. She was too focused on the door, waiting for Jinho to arrive. When he walked in, her heart did something strange. It beat faster. Humans called this nervous excitement. She had read about it, but never experienced it until now. Hey, Lyra, Jinho said with that warm smile. He was wearing his casual clothes instead of his uniform. His dark hair was still slightly damp from a shower. Sorry I'm a bit late. The cooling system on Deck 5 was acting up. You are 3 minutes late. This is acceptable, Lyra said. Then she remembered humans did not talk like that in casual situations. I mean, it is okay. Thank you for coming. No problem. So what did you want to show me about the nebula? This was the moment. Lyra had planned this carefully. First, she would show him her actual research. Then, during a natural pause in conversation, she would move closer. She would touch his arm. She would say the words she had practiced. She would kiss his cheek to thank him properly, the human way. Her research said this was the appropriate level of gratitude for someone who saved your life. Now, she just had to do it. Lyra showed Jinho her nebula research for exactly 12 minutes. She knew it was 12 minutes because she was counting. The plan required timing. This is really amazing work, Jinho said, looking at the data on her tablet. You found a new type of particle emission? That's huge. It is significant for understanding stellar formation in dense gas regions, Lyra agreed. Her voice sounded strange to her own ears. Too formal, too stiff. She needed to relax. The movies showed women being relaxed and natural. She tried to remember how they stood, how they smiled. Are you okay? Jinho asked, looking at her with concern. You seem a bit tense. I am functioning normally, Lyra said automatically. Then she stopped herself. I mean, yes, I am fine. This was not going according to plan already. She set down the tablet and turned to face him fully. This was the moment. She had rehearsed this part at least 20 times in her quarters. Jinho, I wanted to speak with you about something else, she began. Sure, what's up? Lyra took a step closer to him. The research said that reducing physical distance was the first step. Jinho did not move away, which was good. His expression was friendly and open. She raised her hand and placed it on his arm, just like she had seen in the videos. His skin was warm through the thin fabric of his shirt. She could feel his pulse, steady and calm. You saved my life during the raider attack, Lyra said. The words came out rehearsed like she was reading from a script. I have not properly thanked you. Oh, Lyra, you don't need to. Please, let me finish. She took a breath. In human culture, gratitude for saving someone's life is expressed through physical affection. I have researched this extensively. I understand the appropriate response. Jinho's eyes widened slightly. You researched it? Yes. I observed human interactions. I studied your entertainment media. I consulted with Sora about proper customs. Lyra moved slightly closer. This was going well. She was following the steps correctly. "Lyra, wait!" But she was already committed to the plan. She had calculated the angle. She knew where to aim. She leaned forward, turning her head to the side, and moved toward his cheek. Except Jinho moved at the same moment, surprised by her sudden motion. Her lips, aimed for his cheek, brushed against the corner of his mouth instead. They both froze. Lyra pulled back quickly, her scales flushing from blue to purple. "That was not the correct placement. I apologize. I will try again." "Lyra, stop," Jinho said gently. He caught her hands in his before she could move closer again. "What are you doing?" "I am thanking you. The human way." Lyra felt confused. Why was he stopping her? The research said heroes appreciated this kind of gratitude. "Did I do it wrong?" "I followed the procedures I observed." Jinho's expression shifted from surprise to something softer. Understanding, maybe. He did not let go of her hands, but his grip was gentle. "Lyra, why do you think you need to do this?" "Because you saved me. Because humans thank their heroes with physical affection. I observed this multiple times." She felt frustration building. "I do not understand. Is the kiss on the cheek not appropriate? Should it be a hug instead?" The data was unclear about the hierarchy of gratitude expressions. "The data?" Jinho repeated. He looked like he was trying not to laugh, but not in a mean way. "Lyra, did you watch movies and try to copy what you saw?" "Yes. Is that not how learning works? Observation and replication?" Now Jinho did laugh, but it was a warm sound. He squeezed her hands gently. "For some things, yes. But not for this. Not for feelings." "I do not understand." Jinho led her to the bench near the observation window. They sat down together, and he finally released her hands. Lyra felt the absence of his touch immediately, which was strange. "Okay, let me try to explain," Jinho said. "Yes, humans often express gratitude with physical affection. Hugs, kisses, things like that. But we don't do it because it's a rule or a procedure. We do it because we feel something and want to share that feeling. Feelings are imprecise. Procedures are reliable," Lyra argued. "Maybe, but feelings are real. When someone hugs you because they're truly grateful, you can feel the difference between that and someone just going through the motions." He smiled at her. "What you just did felt like you were completing an assignment, not thanking me." Lyra looked down at her hands. Her scales were slowly returning to their normal blue color. "I wanted to thank you properly. I wanted to do it the right way." "There is no single right way," Jinho said. "That's what makes it genuine. If you hug me because you want to hug me, because it feels right to you, then it's perfect. But if you're just copying what you saw in a movie, then it's empty. But I do not know what feels right. My people do not do these things. Then maybe you don't have to do them at all." Jinho turned to look at the nebula through the window. "You know what would mean more to me than any kiss or hug?" "What?" "Just tell me. In your own words. Not from a script or a movie. Just what you actually feel." Lyra was quiet for a long moment. She looked at the nebula, too, its swirling colors filling the darkness of space. She thought about what she felt when Jinho saved her, what she felt when she watched him with other people, what she felt right now, sitting next to him. "I was afraid," she said finally. "When I was trapped in the laboratory. For the first time in my life, I experienced true fear. I thought I would die." Jinho listened without interrupting. "Then you came. You risked your life for mine. You could have died. The logical thing would have been to save yourself. But you did not." She turned to look at him. "You showed me something I had never seen before. You showed me that some things matter more than logic." "Like what?" Jinho asked softly. "Like compassion, like loyalty, like the belief that every life has value, even if it is not your own species. Lyra's voice was steady now, no longer rehearsed. You made me feel something I cannot name in my language, something warm and confusing and illogical. That sounds like gratitude, Jinho said. Real gratitude. Perhaps, or perhaps it is something more. Lyra admitted what she had been afraid to say. I think about you often. I look for you in crowded rooms. I want to understand you better. This is not normal for my species. We do not form attachments easily. Jinho was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled, that same warm smile that made Lyra's heart beat faster. I think about you too, he said. Ever since the rescue, I've wanted to get to know you better, but I didn't want to push. I know Valasians value personal space. I am learning that personal space is less important than I thought, Lyra said. They sat together in comfortable silence for a while, watching the nebula. Lyra thought about all her research, all her planning. None of it had worked the way she expected, but this, sitting here and talking honestly, felt right in a way that following a script never did. Jinho, she said. Yeah? Thank you. For saving me. And for teaching me that feelings cannot be researched like science. He grinned. You're welcome. And hey, you can still hug me if you want. Just do it when it feels natural, not because you think you're supposed to. Lyra considered this. Did she want to hug him? Yes, she did, but not yet. Not while it still felt like an experiment. When she was ready, she would know. After their conversation on the observation deck, something changed between Lyra and Jinho. The awkwardness disappeared, replaced by something easier, something real. Jinho started joining her for meals in the station cafeteria. At first, it was by chance. Then it became routine. Lyra found herself saving a seat for him, and he always smiled when he saw her waiting. What are you eating today? Jinho asked one evening, sitting down across from her with his tray. Lyra looked at her plate. Nutrition paste, variant 7. It contains the minerals my species requires. Jinho made a face. That looks terrible. No offense. None taken. It is not designed for taste, only function. That's so sad. Jinho pushed his plate toward her. Here, try this. It's called kimchi. It's from Korea, the part of Earth where my family comes from. Lyra looked at the red, fermented vegetable cautiously. It appears to be decomposing. Jinho laughed. It's supposed to be like that. It's fermented. That's how we preserve it and make it delicious. Come on, just try a little bit. Lyra picked up a small piece with her fork and ate it. Her eyes widened. The taste was intense, sour and spicy and complex, nothing like the bland nutrition paste she usually ate. This is fascinating, she said, taking another piece. The fermentation process creates multiple layers of flavor. Most people just say it's yummy, Jinho said with a grin. But yeah, that works too. From that day on, Jinho brought her different human foods to try. Some she liked, some she did not, but she appreciated the experience. More than the food, she appreciated the way Jinho explained each dish, telling her stories about his grandmother who taught him to cook, about celebrations where his family shared meals together. Food is about more than eating, Jinho explained. It's about connection. Sharing a meal with someone means you care about them. Lyra understood this better than he knew. Among Valasians, they ate alone or in formal dining halls. Sharing food was not part of their culture. But sitting here with Jinho, trying his food and hearing his stories, she felt something warm and good. Connection. That was the word he used. She was learning what it meant. Over the following weeks, their friendship grew in other ways. Jinho showed Lyra how to fix broken equipment using creative solutions instead of following exact procedures. Sometimes the manual is wrong, he said, rewiring a damaged console. You have to trust your instincts and try new things. Instincts are unreliable, Lyra argued, but she watched carefully as he worked. Maybe, but following rules blindly doesn't always work either. Sometimes you need to think outside the box. Lyra tilted her head. Why would I think outside a box? I am not inside a box. Jinho laughed and explained the idiom. Lyra found human language full of these strange expressions, but she was learning to understand them. In return, Lyra taught Jinho about Valasian culture and philosophy. She explained how her people valued order, precision, and logic above all else. We believe that emotions cloud judgment, she said one evening in her laboratory. Clear thinking requires a clear mind. But don't you feel things? Jinho asked. Like right now, what are you feeling? Lyra paused. Before meeting Jinho, she would have said nothing or contentment at completing work. But now she recognized the warmth in her chest, the way her attention focused entirely on him when he spoke. I feel curious, she said slowly, and comfortable, and something else I do not have words for. Happy? Jinho suggested. Perhaps. Is happiness when you want a moment to continue longer? Yeah, Jinho said softly. That's exactly what it is. They spent time in the station's garden habitat, a large dome filled with plants from different worlds. Jinho liked to sit on the grass, something Lyra found strange at first. Why sit on the ground when there are benches? She asked. Because grass feels nice. Come on, try it. Lyra sat down carefully next to him. The grass was soft and cool. Above them, artificial sunlight warmed her scales. Jinho lay back with his hands behind his head, looking up at the dome's ceiling. You know what I miss about Earth? He said. Real sky. Here, everything is controlled and artificial. But on Earth, you could lie in the grass and watch clouds move. Every day was different. Variation creates inefficiency, Lyra said automatically. Maybe, but it also creates beauty. No two sunsets are the same. No 2 days feel identical. That's what makes life interesting. Lyra lay back on the grass next to him, mimicking his position. You humans find value in unpredictability. My people would call that chaos. Your people would hate my apartment, Jinho joked. Minho says it looks like a hurricane hit it. What is a hurricane? Jinho explained, and Lyra listened. Not because she cared about Earth weather patterns, but because she liked hearing his voice. She liked learning about his world. One day, Lyra asked him the question that had been on her mind since the rescue. Why did you save me? The real reason. They were in the observation deck again, their usual meeting place. Jinho was quiet for a long time. Do you want the philosophical answer or the honest one? He finally said. Both. Philosophically, humans believe every life has value. We're all connected, all part of something bigger. Leaving someone to die when you could help them goes against everything we believe in. He looked at her. But honestly, in that moment I didn't think about philosophy. I just knew you were in trouble and I couldn't walk away. You mattered. That was enough. I mattered to you? But you did not know me. Didn't need to. You were alive. You were scared. You needed help. That's all that mattered. Lyra processed this. This is illogical. You could have died. I am not even your species. We had never spoken before that day. I know. But you saved me anyway. Yeah. Why? Jinho smiled. Because you mattered. I keep saying that, but it's the truth. You don't calculate whether someone is worth saving, Lyra. You just save them. That's what humans do. Lyra felt something shift inside her. For her whole life, she believed logic was the highest form of thinking. Emotions were primitive, unreliable, weak. But Jinho showed her something different. His compassion was not weak. It was the strongest thing about him. His willingness to risk everything for a stranger was not illogical. It was brave. And the feeling growing in her chest whenever she looked at him was not a malfunction. It was something her people had forgotten how to feel, something powerful and true and good. "Jinho," she said carefully, "I think I am beginning to understand." Understand what? Why humans are the way they are. Why you feel so deeply. Why you risk so much for each other. She turned to face him fully. It is not a weakness. It is a strength, perhaps the greatest strength your species has. Jinho's expression softened. "I think that might be the nicest thing anyone's ever said about humans. We're usually called reckless or emotional or impulsive." "You are all those things," Lyra agreed. "But you are also loyal, compassionate, and brave. You care about others more than you care about yourselves. This is extraordinary." "Well," Jinho said, looking embarrassed but pleased, "you're pretty extraordinary too." Lyra felt her scales warm. She was learning to recognize this feeling now. Happiness, real, genuine happiness, and something more, something deeper, something humans called love. The alarm woke Lyra from sleep at 0300 hours. Not again, she thought as she jumped from her bed and grabbed her emergency suit. "All personnel, this is Commander Vex. We have a critical situation. A spatial anomaly has appeared near the station. It is pulling us toward it. All science and engineering teams report to your stations immediately." Lyra ran to the main laboratory, where her team was already gathering. The head scientist, a Talaxian named Vrex, was pulling up data on the main screen. "What kind of anomaly?" Lyra asked. "Unknown. It appeared suddenly and it is growing. If we do not stabilize our orbit within 2 hours, the station will be pulled apart by gravitational forces." Lyra looked at the data. The numbers were bad. Very bad. The anomaly was creating a gravitational well that was increasing in strength every minute. "We need to create a counterfield," she said, "something to push against the gravitational pull." "Theoretically possible," Vrex said, "but we would need to modify the station's drive systems. That is an engineering problem, not a science one." "Then we work together," said a voice behind them. Lyra turned to see Jinho entering the laboratory with Minho and the rest of the engineering team. "We heard you might need help," Jinho said, giving Lyra a quick smile despite the crisis. For the next hour, they worked together. Lyra and her team calculated the exact frequency and power needed for the counter field. Jinho and his team figured out how to modify the drive systems to produce it. It was beautiful, in a way. Science and engineering, logic and intuition, working together perfectly. "We have a solution," Jinho announced. "But there's a problem." "What problem?" Commander Vex asked over the communication system. "Someone needs to manually activate the field generator from the drive core. The remote systems are too damaged, and whoever does it will be exposed to massive amounts of radiation for at least 3 minutes." Silence filled the room. 3 minutes of that radiation will cause severe damage to most species, Vrex said quietly. "Possibly fatal." "Humans can survive it," Jinho said. "Our bodies handle radiation better than most species. I will do it." "No," Lyra said immediately. Everyone turned to look at her. "No," she repeated, stepping forward. "I will do it." Jinho shook his head. "Lyra, you heard what Vrex said. The radiation will kill you." "It might kill me, but it will definitely harm you. Humans may handle radiation better than Valasians, but not that much better." Lyra looked at the data. "According to my calculations, you have a 60% chance of survival. I have a 40% chance. The logical choice is for you to go." "Exactly. So I'll go. But I am not choosing based on logic." Lyra moved closer to him. "I am choosing based on something you taught me. You matter, Jinho. That is enough reason." Jinho stared at her. She could see him understanding what she was doing. She was using his own words, his own philosophy, against him. We don't have time for this argument, Commander Vex said. Someone needs to go now. Then we both go, Jinho said. 2 people working together can do it in 90 seconds instead of 3 minutes. Less exposure time for both of us. Lyra ran the calculations in her head. He was right. 2 people could cut the time by more than half. The radiation exposure would still be dangerous but survivable. Acceptable, she said. They ran together through the corridors toward the drive core. Lyra had never run so fast in her life. Behind them, Minho shouted, "Be careful, you idiots!" The drive core was a massive chamber filled with glowing energy conduits. The radiation detectors were already screaming warnings. Jinho handed Lyra a radiation suit, and they both put them on quickly. "You take the left side, I'll take the right," Jinho said. "When I say go, we activate together. Understand?" Understood. They entered the chamber. Immediately, Lyra felt the heat of radiation against her scales, even through the suit. Her body's warning systems were flashing alerts in her mind. Ignore them, she told herself. Focus on the task. She reached her control panel at the same moment Jinho reached his. They worked in perfect sync, their hands moving over the controls. Lyra had never felt so connected to another person before. They were one unit, one purpose, one determination. "Ready?" Jinho called across the chamber. "Ready! Go!" They activated the field generators together. The room filled with a brilliant blue light. The counterfield was working. Lyra could feel the station stabilizing, the pull of the anomaly weakening. "It's working!" she shouted. 30 more seconds!" Jinho yelled back. "We need to hold it!" Those 30 seconds felt like forever. The radiation was burning through Lyra's suit. She could see Jinho struggling too, his face pale with pain. But he did not let go of the controls. So neither did she. Finally, the field stabilized. The automatic systems took over. "Now, get out!" Jinho shouted. They ran from the chamber together. The moment they were through the door, it sealed behind them. They collapsed on the floor of the corridor, breathing hard. "Did it work?" Lyra asked. Jinho checked his communicator. "Yeah. The anomaly is dissipating. We saved the station." "We saved each other," Lyra corrected. Jinho looked at her, and even through his pain, he smiled. "Yeah, we did." Medical teams arrived and took them both to the infirmary. The radiation exposure was bad, but not fatal. They would both recover fully. As Lyra lay in her medical bed, she thought about what happened. She had refused to leave Jinho, just like he had refused to leave her during the raider attack. She had risked her life for him. She had chosen emotion over logic, compassion over calculation. She had become a little bit human. 3 days later, Lyra was released from medical care. The first place she went was the observation deck. She knew Jinho would be there. Somehow, she just knew. He was standing at the window, looking at the stars. The anomaly was gone now, leaving only normal space behind. "Hey," he said when he saw her. "You're okay." "I am okay. You are okay. We are both okay." "Thanks to you," Jinho said. "If you hadn't come with me, I might not have made it. If I had not come with you, the radiation would have killed you." Lyra stepped closer to him. "I could not allow that to happen." "Why not?" Jinho asked softly. "By Valesian logic, sacrificing one person to save many is the correct choice." "Yes, by Valesian logic." Lyra took a breath. "But I am learning that logic is not the only way to see the world." She reached out and took his hand. His warm fingers closed around her cool scales. The touch felt right, natural, perfect. "You taught me something important, Jinho. You taught me that some things matter more than calculations, that feelings are not weaknesses, that caring about someone is not illogical. It is the most logical thing in the universe." Jinho's expression was soft, gentle. "Lyra, I am not finished." She moved closer, looking up at him. I never properly thanked you for saving me. Not the way I wanted to. Not the way I truly felt. You don't have to. I want to. Lyra reached up and placed her hand on his cheek. Not because I watched it in a movie. Not because I researched it. Because I want to. Because it feels right. She leaned in and kissed him. Not his cheek this time. His lips, soft and warm and completely genuine. When she pulled back, Jinho was staring at her with wide eyes. That was, he started. Genuine, Lyra finished. That was real. That was me thanking you the only way that matters. From my heart. Jinho smiled. That beautiful, warm smile she had grown to love. You know what? That was perfect. He pulled her into a hug, and Lyra wrapped her arms around him. She rested her head against his chest and felt his heartbeat, strong and steady and alive. They stood there together, two different species, two different worlds, holding each other and watching the stars. Minho's voice came over Jinho's communicator. Hey Jinho, are you in the observation deck? Because if you are, everyone in the cafeteria can see you through the window, and they're all cheering, just so you know. Jinho laughed and turned off the communicator. Should we move somewhere more private? No, Lyra said. Let them see. Let everyone see that sometimes the best things in life are not logical. They are simply true. And in that moment, holding each other under the stars, both of them understood that love was the one universal constant that transcended species, culture, and logic. Humanity, with all its emotions and reckless compassion and illogical bravery, had taught the galaxy something important. That feelings were not weaknesses to be controlled, they were strengths to be celebrated. And Lyra, a Valasian who had spent her whole life believing in logic, had learned the most human lesson of all, that the heart knows things the mind cannot calculate, that some mathematics cannot be measured, that love, in the end, always makes sense.